Hello, this is Linda Vettrus-Nichols, and do I have an amazing woman to introduce you to? Lily Lee. Welcome, Lily.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. My pleasure. I can't wait. We are all in this together. Wow. We're recording this during COVID-19 on top of it. So that's very, very potent. And so, Lily, tell us a little bit about yourself and your story of transformation and how you arrived at, even this title slide, We Are All in This Together.
I think more than ever at this moment, people want to feel connected. We as a human race has been posed such a great challenge in front of us. And I've been in a lockdown here in Singapore for a little over a month by now, and I have been working away from the office for more than 3 months at this point.
Wow.
When COVID first broke out, I was actually just planning to visit my parents. They live in China. And as I took one of the last flights out before Chinese New Year from Singapore to China, it was a very surreal experience. The airports all of a sudden are filled with policemen, with people in white coats and masks. And at that moment, I felt like an outsider because, first of all, I don't live there. And secondly, it was just such a new dynamic that I was completely unprepared for.
Right.
So I remember that I was in the deep of the lockdown in China for 2 weeks. And I came back to Singapore, and all of a sudden I caught up with the world and I realized that this is all happening. And it was another round of stay home notice. That's what we call it here in Singapore, which means that I shouldn't go out at all from that moment on.
Wow.
So yeah, I think all of this series of events has made me feel like we as a group of people together, because that's essentially what we are.
Yes.
Are just trying to reach out so much more than before. And we just want to feel like there is somebody out there for us. There is some kind of vibe that we can receive and we can give among all of this network of connection.
Right.
So I guess it comes from a place where we want to essentially connect at the very basic human level.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is kind of your story, your journey story? Did you grow up in China or?
So I grew up in Singapore. My parents are Chinese, so I actually moved here when I was 14. So I was educated here in Singapore, and I had a scholarship actually. That was very unexpected, but being financially independent at a young age taught me a lot about individuality, about expressing myself, about fitting in and standing out. Yeah.
Nice.
So that I think it's a part of my childhood story that has made me the way I am because of the pressure of having to grow up at a very young age and to be on my own. I was made very aware of my surroundings. I was always very conscious about what other people are doing, what are they feeling, and I was always very aware of the air in the room.
Interesting way to say that. Yeah, I love it. And then you got into this air of being with men at the CEO level, and you're the only woman, right? Has that been your journey too?
So yeah, if we fast forward a little bit into my career, when I started, I was the management trainee in one of the biggest luxury companies, and at that time, it felt like there was a lot of pressure to perform, right?
Sure.
You need to yourself. As a young woman, I wasn't considered the common face in that sense. A lot of people who excel in that corporate environment are different. They are, tall Caucasian men. And for me, it was at the beginning a time of adjustment, but I think it took me a good 2 years to find my footing.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, I was emulating the male traits in order to be successful.
Yeah.
A lot of traits such as being loud, being confident, being decisive, being that alpha male in the room was picked up. And because I knew that, I was very aware, subconsciously I became them. But later on, about 2 years later, I started to gain more and more confidence, and there were more people coming to me telling me that, hey, they actually enjoyed me being a woman when I exhibited traits like, compassion, empathy, sometimes a little bit softer approach,
right?
Exhibiting more of a more human energy, and people like that, responded very positively to it. So I realized that, hey, it's about time that I become my version of a woman that can lead, and leading in my own way has benefited me ever since tremendously.
I love it. And your company's even shifted to taking an hour with an employee, and I mean everybody at the C-level too, I assume, where they share vulnerably with each other, so you really get to know people.
That is actually a story that I was telling from another friend of mine. It's happening at another great company, which I personally admire. But when my friend told me this story, I think it's wonderful, because what they do ever since COVID broke out is that they would invite everyone for an hour of coffee table chat. Instead of talking about work, they want everybody to talk about what shaped them, what kind of childhood they had, how their parents were like, what would they consider as personal values, and what do they really, really do in their spare time. Surprisingly, a lot of people who were perceived as, for example, a lot of people were perceived as too serious at this moment came out from their shell. And they shared so much about what they are truly passionate about. And this is so great an initiative, I think, because everybody had a chance to be perceived as the friend that you have in your life. People, instead of being a name on the email, becomes suddenly alive, and this kind of relationship has just blossomed into a much higher level of understanding.
Wow, that's so cool. And I believe that you had told me when you've become more vulnerable, where you're working, the people, especially the women, are listening to you, and you just feel more acknowledged and accepted, or whatever the wording is. How would you describe that?
Yeah, so it came from a day when one of my team member came to me and said, "Do you ever have a bad day? You look like you're always so put together. You look like you never quite review your emotions. I know sometimes you must be like us and you suffer from negativity, and surely sometimes you be dealing with certain things in your personal life. But here we feel like sorry."
Yeah, I said sure. I'm tracking with you. Yeah.
So she was telling me that we feel like sometimes we don't know if we can relate to you. We feel like you're always giving us a politically correct answer. We know that you represent the image of the management. We know that you have to convey certain messages that are not something that you personally identify with, but do you ever have a bad day?
Wow.
That was very interesting because I'm a smiler. I'm
Okay.
naturally sending out a smile at the very beginning of every conversation, and I
Sure.
think that also came from it. But it was a bit of a wake-up call. It gave me a chance to reflect on my approach, whether it's sending a corporate message or a personal message. Maybe I have not quite differentiated that.
Right.
And certain moments when I am not exactly that smiley self on the outside,
Yeah.
I thought maybe I should start portraying more of that. So I tried, because it's all part of the experiment, right? And that's what makes it
Yes.
fun. So I tried to share with people more about my personal life and all the imperfections that I was dealing with. And I
Right.
realized that people were responding to that so much better. And it's almost like a bridge that I started building to make people come closer and closer to me on a personal level.
Wow.
So vulnerability is a sign of being a human. Anything that we are sort of afraid of, anything that scares us a little bit,
Right.
if we can just put it out there, meanwhile, you feel like you're facing up to your fear. You feel like you are no longer avoiding the elephant in the room, and very very slowly you can sort of regain a power to fight for it. So when I
Yeah.
share those moments of vulnerability, I think not only people liked me better, I
Yeah.
could in process deal with them better. Yeah, so it's really all in all a great approach. Now in my book, it's definitely high on the list when it comes to being an effective leader and a great manager.
That's wonderful. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Bye bye.